Cool. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the USL Show, sponsored by Roughneck Scarves, your home for men's and women's national team USL and MLS scarves, as well as custom scarves for your club or personal use. Check them out, roughneckscarves.com. This podcast is also produced by the Beautiful Game Network of Podcasts, which we are very proud to be a part of. Definitely check the whole network out at BGNFM, as well as on the Twitters at the BGNFM. I am your host, as always, Evan Villella, joined by, there's sometimes my soccer colleagues, sometimes my soccer acquaintances, but they're always my soccer friends. And for the next hour or so, I will be your moderator, host, or maybe even your facilitator of a discussion of, what is this, week 7, week 8? Of the USL season, week 7. Joining me this week, we have it is the man that puts the show in show notes. It's Ryan Allen.
Good morning from Glasgow.
I forgot to say our international correspondent. I apologize.
Week 7 matches the same amount of titles Celtic have won in a row, which they just wrapped up this weekend.
Sorry if we have any Rangers fans. It's honestly, he means just as much to Las Vegas Lights as Chalice in terms of coaching last week. It's our good friend from Switching Play Soccer, among other things. It's Carson Merck. Hey, buddy.
That's a high honor, man. And I told you it was almost time for me to take a selfie with the Llamas last week. I was crouched down. I was ready to take the picture, and I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Was it for like fear of the Llamas, or what was the...
It was for fear of, I guess, judgment of myself. I think that's a path. If you go down it, it's going to lead to, I don't know what else, but not good things, I imagine.
And joining us for the first time is one half of, as he likes to put it, they get drunk and then just kind of wing it. But it's one half of Texas Soccer Radio. Larry Leathers. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on tonight, guys. Appreciate it.
No problem. Guys, things happen. Oh, I should mention that we will eventually, at some point, I think, be joined by Pony. He's having headset issues and things like that. And then real quick, just to plug before I get into the news, we did a show yesterday with our power rankings for May with Brady Ballou, who used to play for Tulsa and is an analyst for them this year. It's good stuff. You should give it a listen. And I don't always say that because I don't always necessarily think that we do really, really good shows, but that was definitely one of them. So definitely check that one out. Anyway, news and things happened. Man, where to start? These are all fun. I guess we'll start with this. Real Monarchs SLC opened up their stadium, Zion Bank Stadium, and for a club that does pretty much everything you can on the field, right? This is like the last piece of the puzzle, I think, for them to be one of the model franchises in USL, and which is kind of crazy because they're a 2-team technically.
Yeah, I mean, it was very encouraging to see their ownership invest a lot of money because they're also partnering the former FC Kansas City and WSL side to play in this stadium and in Rio Tinto as well. But it's very encouraging to see ownership groups investing money into this team. And it definitely seems like Real Monarchs will be positioning themselves to stay in D2 rather than drop down to D3 like many of the other MLS2 sides will, that Real Monarchs are wanting to play at the highest level possible and that they have the facilities now to back it up.
Yeah, they almost operate like an independent team, even though they are a 2-team. You know, great new stadium, look good on the broadcast. They've continually brought in, whether it's young players or just talented players in general. So it's definitely nice to see a 2-team that is taken seriously as its own entity rather than, hey, here's some of our old soccer balls and old jerseys. Good luck.
Yeah. Larry, your thoughts as a guy that follows San Antonio pretty closely, who's kind of an interesting case study because they're technically, I guess, a 1.5 with the relationship with New York City, but they're, for all intents and purposes, kind of in the same boat where they are pretty much just an independent club.
I mean, the stadium's a nice thing to have. It's a good thing to have in your back pocket there, especially if they decide to make a push for MLS here down the road in the next round of expansion. We've got our own stadium here, and there really hasn't been that much for the way of San Antonio when it comes to affiliation with NYCFC. We haven't seen that much back and forth between it. It's been mostly a professional relationship. So yeah, 1.5 is probably the right way to call it for us. But at the end of the day, for me, they're still a 2-team.
Sure.
First
no, yeah, yeah. I mean,
it's nice to see them operate differently, but yeah.
Yeah, and, and I think all of us at some point, whether it be on a podcast or just kind of, through chats or things like that, have mentioned, how interesting it is, at least, that the impact that even just, if you have a 2-team, moving them out a little bit farther and naming them something else has in terms of maybe kind of dampening that hostility, which isn't the right word, but kind of that, I don't know, remorse that some people or that some fans or that even some players have in terms of playing these MLS 2 sides.
It's good to see the separation, and that it's probably a good move on their part to move them out and get them a little bit spaced out from the MLS side of the pairing there. I wish more 2 teams would do that. It'd be nice to see them have their own identity in the league.
Speaking of, good segues, everybody. That was solid. MLS trademarks. Oh, and I'm not good with my Virginia townships. Loudon United, or I would imagine that's what it is. But that's allegedly going to be the name of DC United's USL side. It's coming in next year, I think. So, yeah, like you said, it's a 2-team, but they're going to play as a 1.5 kind of deal, where they will be, the 2 side for DC United. I think DC's seen what the MLS clubs right around them in Philly and New York, and the ones that they're always compared to in Philly and New York, have done, in terms of even just having a USL side and seeing the benefits that has. And now DC's going to come into the league.
Chances Dane Kelly is the leading scorer of that team in 2019 are high.
Are very high.
I mean, as long as they keep him out of the Central Conference, I'm okay with that. What will probably be the Central Conference
I don't think
coming in the next year.
Yeah, I would imagine
put them in the Central Conference.
Oh God.
St. Louis should just move every year regardless. Like, you move them to the Central Conference next year, and then the year after you put them in the East, and then throw them back in the West, and just really make it a lot harder than it has to be for everybody.
And then
they the Harlem Globetrotters of the league.
Yeah, and they can tell old stories of, like, back when we were in the Eastern Conference, and
right,
back in the Western Conference. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and you'll be like, well, was that the one 2 years ago or the one like 5 years ago? And they'll be like, whichever, Yeah, it's both, for sure.
People will be happy. It'll be like promotion and relegation for them, right?
Just for them.
Yeah,
just for them. Yeah,
just like them. Pretty much specifically for them.
Sponsored.
Hey, Pony, can we hear you? Can you hear us?
I could hear you guys now. That was a problem before.
All right, great. No, we're good, guys. It's
I had to reboot.
USL's version of Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, I have no idea where we are, but let's roll with it.
We are just talking about DC United's trademark for Loudon United, which is their supposed MLS 2 side team name.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a thing. And then, guys, if we're all looking for jobs in USL, I should have phrased that better. There's a COO listing for a job in Des Moines, Iowa. For potentially a USL franchise. I hope they're called something with agriculture, because that's really the only thing that happens in Iowa, or like barns.
Well, they've got the Menace right now. What, PDL team, right? So if they move them up, who knows? I mean, they may still be the Menace there.
What's so menacing about Iowa, though? The corn?
The cornfields.
Okay.
Yeah, the corn husks, when they get tall, man, that's serious business.
Children of the Corn, signs. Yeah,
I was going to say, it's a very, like, Stephen King, like, call them the Des Moines Children of the Corn, or like the Des Moines Parents Are Evil or something. That'd be really solid. You could get a youth market going with that really quick.
Themselves.
Yeah. A lot of opportunities. So if anyone wants to be the chief operating officer, send in your resumes, I guess. It's always funny to me that, like, things leak because of job listings.
Happens all the time.
It seems like a very amateur thing to have happen, though. It's so funny.
I mean, you got to hire people before you can start making
It's very
announcements.
true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I in my head, I'm always like, oh, there's probably a back channel for that. And then it's like, no, there's not. Not at all.
It kind of reminds me of Family Guy when they find Batman's cave and he's like, yeah, you had them build like a Lazy Susan for your car. Like, you didn't think somebody would talk about this? Like, you're posting a job listing for a team. Come on.
Yeah. And then we're not going to talk about the other two things just because we have to talk about that game that got played between those two teams. So we'll get into that. Let me get back up to results. Ryan, there's a bunch of red cards. Can you talk about that real quick while I stall? Great.
Yeah, so it definitely seems like there's been a lot more red cards being shown in the league. Pretty much up to this point, there have now been 21 teams out of the 33 currently playing in USL that have seen red cards, with Tulsa currently leading the way with 4. It just seems like there has been a lot more fouls this year, particularly out in the West Coast, who seem to rack up at least 6 combined yellow cards per match. And a lot of these red cards tend to not be straight red cards, although there was one earlier today in the Ottawa fixture that was a straight red, and we'll talk about that when we get to that Ottawa match. But a lot more of these red cards have tended to be more just second yellows or just accumulation of fouls. And it's just one thing I've noticed moving on towards the season, that fouling has at least become a lot more prevalent in both conferences.
Actually, that was the exact opposite. I've seen a lot more straight red cards for really dumb and violent plays this season than I have in the past. Maybe just watching the right games.
Yeah, I think most of the reds I've seen have been at least just second yellows, and that seems to be a lot more prevalent in the Eastern Conference, whereas the straight reds are more prevalent in the West, I believe.
I mean, at least no one's gotten a second yellow for taking their shirt off after they hit a PK yet. So
Vegas will eventually.
Yeah, once that happens.
It's early in the season still.
It's true. We have plenty of time. Anyway, guys, week 7 has already happened in USL. And in fact, today we started week 8, which is why I was confused, I think. So let's talk about these week 7 results. The first game of the weekend, Richmond 2, Toronto FC 2-1, meaning Richmond scored twice and the Junior Reds scored once. It was Aiden Daniels for Toronto that scored in the 9th minute. Udai Amura counters in the 11th, and then Brandon O'Connor through Oconee. Two teams that aren't probably not going to be great. I want to say that kind of politically correct. So two teams that don't have really high expectations, but a decently entertaining match, and Richmond probably does well here to come away with 3 points. But, you know, like we said yesterday on the power rankings, these teams don't necessarily inspire a whole lot of excitement.
Yeah, I think both have potential to at least show up any given day. We've seen Richmond, especially at home, play really well. Toronto, they're going to get a win eventually here. They're too good to go for too long winless. Someone's going to come in, take them lightly, and they're going to steal a win from them.
I do think out of the winless sides currently in the Eastern Conference, they're the ones that I would peg as the next most likely to get one.
It's like being the best of
and
them.
Then, yeah. RGVFC 2, Orange County 0 in a upset, so to speak. Carson, what's up? What happened?
That was nice. It was a nice result after a road trip of 3 straight losses. And they finally got their first win of the season. Definitely an upset. I had mentioned maybe an article the week before, or 2 weeks before, that RGV could use a player like Memo Rodriguez, who signed with the Dynamo, to kind of jumpstart the offense. They had Memo Rodriguez on loan from the Dynamo. So you kind of saw what he could do. He scored the first goal, and then him and Max Steves both played well coming down from the Dynamo from the first team. So, yeah, definitely a good result. I was hoping for a win, but wasn't overly optimistic, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they flesh out that, because I think those are two guys, Rodriguez and especially Max Steves, who might not break into the Dynamo proper, or at least wouldn't be guys that I would think would be first names on the sheet. Although, like, I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see them on the bench. But you know, definitely guys that, because they have that partnership with RGV, that could really, you know, develop well in USL and get some pro minutes. And then we had this game.
The one you've been waiting for.
Oh man, this was strange. And I'm glad that Larry and Carson are here because they know both these teams pretty well. Las Vegas 1, San Antonio 3. This included a go
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Finally pulling out a win.
88-minute red card to really top everything off. So
it was
definitely.
I would almost say it was crazy, and I don't know if you guys know Spanish very well, but the word for crazy in Spanish is loco, like soccer loco. So
hey, good man. I don't even have to plug our sponsors because he can do it for me.
Just had to mix it in, but no, that match was I was live and in the flesh, and it was pretty intense. It got a little weird there in the second half, but as I wrote it, it was kind of Vegas going back to what we saw in the preseason. They were horrendous against the counterattack. Goalkeeping was a little sporadic, you could say, but I don't know. I know it was like a natural reaction for everyone to tweet me when the suspensions came down. They're like, hey, what happened? And I felt really accomplished as a writer and a reporter, and I was there like 50 feet away and had no idea what happened. So it was a hostile crowd, to say the least. There was not nice words said to everyone involved, but Flavor Flav was there, which was pretty cool. That added to the excitement. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. I'm sure Larry has some takeaways as well.
I mean, it was a hell of a game, and it when you talk about you were going back to the preseason, we were going back to last season because really up till now we haven't seen a whole lot of counterattacking out of San Antonio. We've been confident and comfortable playing the ball out of the back, and that really hasn't seemed to work so well for us. But this game, the counterattack was strong and ready and willing, and it got the job done. The hostile environment definitely came across on television for sure. Between all those stoppages for bottles and stuff being thrown on the field.
Seriously.
I know I saw some talk on Twitter that somebody had said that the game was in danger of actually being stopped for the evening at one point. So yeah, no, it was a hell of an environment and a hell of a game.
Yeah, Vegas is still just the confusing team to me by far. If you look at their stats, the team you think wins every game has lost every game basically for Vegas. It's almost like if you just look at the numbers, the worst teams won every time. Even this one, for Ryan Haas says, Vegas led in shots and lost 3-1, which has been basically the reverse of every other game. The team who has less shots always wins. And this is probably the first time all season Vegas has been not great at converting their chances, at least their shots on goal. I think they've had over 50% shots on goal scored up to this point. This probably knocks them out of that.
Well, let's remember who's in goal for San Antonio here. We've got Diego Restrepo, 2017 USL goalkeeper of the year here. So, I mean, he's good at his job. He does what he does well.
He's decent.
You also had a pretty strong acting job there when a Lights player got close enough to hit his leg, and he went down for a while, which, that's soccer, and everyone around us was kind of looking like, is he okay? And I was like, he didn't even touch his leg at all, I assure you. And he doesn't look like a great goalkeeper. Like he's built like I am, which is a little round around the edges, but he's great reaction saves, and he seems to control the area well. So
I mean, if you really look at him, yeah, he's a little on the smaller side. Obviously, I would prefer somebody that's a little bit larger, but he does what he does well in the goal there. He's very good at selling things, and he does waste time from time to time. It does happen. So that's nothing I don't expect out of him. It happens fairly often, to be honest. But he's a good goalkeeper, and he gets the job done most of the time. So it's hard to complain about it, even though the time wasting can be frustrating at some point.
Carson, real quick before we move on, you literally could have said your figure was anything.
Yeah.
And you decided to be honest and say you're a little round. So
it's just all about accepting your truth and being
fair enough, man.
And like Charles Barkley said, round is a shape, so I'm cool.
Okay, all right, I appreciate it. The good news was Charlotte and Indy realized that they could not in any way, shape, or form match what just happened against Las Vegas and San Antonio. So they decided, let's play to a 0-0 draw, and they did. Two teams that probably would have liked to win, or I don't want to say needed a win because it's only April at this point, but early season points are important. And sure, I don't think Indy will be too upset that they got a draw to Charlotte, because Charlotte is a decently hard team to figure out. But 3 points are so much better than 1.
I got to stop you right there really quick. Can you please do me a favor and send a tweet out to all of the San Antonio fans and remind them that it's only April? Because all of our people are completely content panicking after 2 games into the season.
Yeah, let's not do that. That's not great. Everyone just deep breath, in and out.
They're still fine.
Oh, yeah. I know that. And Kyle has been preaching that as well, that it's still early. We said come back and talk to us in June or July, and we'll see about panicking. But man, people have been content really quick to panic in San Antonio. Like,
what could possibly be the worst case for you guys know that you're just like a playoff team, right?
We should be,
right. Like,
this is the turning point.
Miss the playoffs. I understand the results haven't been there quite yet, but I mean, you beat Vegas, and it's, again, we're recording on May the 2nd.
It's a bigger than, we won 1 game. That's a step in the positive positive direction. But up till this point, man, week to week, it's been nothing but panic in San Antonio soccer Twitter land, because we're not getting goals, we're not getting wins. Everybody expected us to come out.
That guy left for that NPSL team.
Oh yeah, it's the tear pack situation. We going down that road right now? I know we got into Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean,
we can save it for later.
Right before we started recording, that and this is the way it is for a lot of clubs in USL, or if not all of them, honestly. That basically, unless the league makes you say something, you're not really. No one owes anyone an explanation, really.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Sure. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot of it is speculation. The most curious part about it to me is that less than an hour after the announcement came out from San Antonio that Chris Tierpak was separating from the team, an announcement briefly went up from Miami, right, less than an hour later, saying that he had joined them, and then it was promptly taken down, and then didn't pop back up again for another day or 2.
Yeah.
45 minutes after announcement, he clearly already had some sort of deal in place. The question now is, how long ago did he make contact with his old Austin Aztecs coach and set something up here? May explain some of his behavior when he got his red card and got his suspension in the Fresno game, because he stormed off the field before they'd even thrown the card. The headband was off and he was headed to the locker room, making his way that direction. Looks super frustrated, and maybe I speculating here, but maybe that's because his next game, the game in Las Vegas, was going to be his last game. Yeah. They were on a road trip. They did stay on the West Coast the entire time for the Fresno game and the Las Vegas game. You wouldn't take a player with you out to Fresno to play if he was just planning on leaving you, after that game.
Yeah. I think Miami should have been a little more cryptic and just posted a picture of a hanging headband like he wears, with Miami colors, not said anything official, and then just left it to the imagination.
That would have been cool. Like a crying emoji, and then like a pack of tissues or something.
And now he's in Miami. Now he's coming out shooting there. He played his first match the other night against the Jacksonville Armada. Got man of the match by the end of it. So he's showing up. Yeah, he's doing fine.
Yeah. And then North Carolina put 3 past Penn FC, which is probably not the last time we'll say that a team put 3 goals in on Penn FC. But I've always been a fan of Kyle Becker. I don't know why. I've always kind of been a weird stand for Canadian national team guys. But dude put in a really good performance here. Austin Duluth scored. Kyle Becker gets 1, and then Daniel Rios. North Carolina goes up 3-0 at home in the first half, and Penn FC just can't come back. Which, if you're looking for a way to beat any team, that's a really good start. But I think especially Penn FC, if you can get them down 2 goals or so early, I don't know if they have enough to come back, even with Tommy Heidemann.
This is probably North Carolina's best match of the season. I mean, a 3-0 victory, and they're currently in the middle of a 4-match unbeaten run after starting the year here with 3 straight losses to Tampa, Richmond, and Indy 11 for them to come back and beat Charlotte. They have 2 somewhat disappointing draws against the Canadian sides, and they beat Penn and scoring, I think, 6 goals in that time. And North Carolina FC has turned into at least a very strong starter to at least kind of turn around that really poor form that they had to start the season. And it will definitely be put to the test this weekend when they have to go on the road to FC Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Or sorry, on May 20th. So they'll have a bit of a break.
Yeah, you said you don't think people are going to put 3 past Penn. I think that's a really good accomplishment. Penn had allowed 3 goals all season to this point. Granted, not against powerhouse teams for scoring, but they had played really good lockdown defense. It was their first multi-goal game allowed. And this is pretty good for North Carolina because Penn is kind of like Pittsburgh, except worse in everything. It's like Richmond, very light. Not Richmond, Rochester. Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh light. They're like Pittsburgh light. See, I'm getting all those old guard guys confused now.
You want to try that again, or are you all right? Did you have a stroke?
I think I'm good.
Does
It's
it smell
Pittsburgh
like
light.
Okay.
Pittsburgh very light.
Okay. Pittsburgh very.
But
it's like Natty Light, but lighter.
Exactly. Natty Ultra Light.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a good showing for North Carolina.
Yeah. Speaking of Pittsburgh won. Caps lock ATL space UTD space 2 0. Pittsburgh continue to be really good at soccer. Now they finally figured out how to play lily ball, which is exciting. And by that I mean the opposite of exciting. They only scored 1 goal. It was early. They bunkered and they got their 3 points. So that's good, because for a while I thought that we were going to have a lot of people get cut or whatever because they were playing, like too free and too attacking. But here we are. They come back down to earth. They score 1 goal. Miles Robinson picks up a red card in the 82nd minute on a second yellow, and Pittsburgh's just really good.
Impressive. Sorry, go ahead.
I can imagine those practices after they scored multiple goals, literally yelling at them, okay, I'm not sure who told you what was going to happen when you came here, but we don't do that here around in the Steel City. It's 1 goal or nothing.
Right.
Attaching some weights to their legs, maybe hey, slow down. There's no need for all that running. Hunker down.
What he does is he has 2 big tarps that he puts on the goal mouth. And he says, anything that misses this is great.
Hey, if it works.
Right. He's like, if you put
goal at the other end, there's no goal at the other end of the pitch.
Right.
Don't worry about it. And then he snaps his fingers in the 88th minute and they go for it.
Right, yeah. He's like, if you guys put it into the river, I'll give you an extra $250 under the table or something.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I mean, anything's on the table at this point with how Las Vegas is compensating players.
Yeah. By inviting Flava Flav to show up or something.
Well, and what? They're giving them chips to the casino for wins, isn't it? Right, Carson?
Right. I forgot about that.
Well, thankfully, that was a really...
I'm forgetting
it was a good investment in the Plaza Hotel. It's a win and 3 goals at home, which they have not done yet.
No one's gotten chips yet, Larry.
Yeah, they have a big board on right behind the bench that has a picture of the chips. I'm not sure why, but
encouragement.
Here's another funny thing. Going back to that match that I forgot. Yeah. So they typically sit away from the fans. Both benches are on the other side towards the middle of the baseball diamond.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they decided to move the benches closer to the fans before the San Antonio match, and we all know what happened. So
chaos ensues.
Yeah. So I was that may have backfired, and I would be very surprised if the benches are next to the stands on Saturday.
Guys, Ottawa Fury got beat by FC Cincinnati 3-0. Since he scores twice in 2 minutes, Kenny Walker with the goal of the year, I'll just say it, doesn't matter. It was.
Yeah.
It's.
I think there'll be a couple other close ones, but that one probably got it. There's at least one or two of those a year, but that was very, very impressive.
I was really nervous because I know Callum Irving pretty well, and he's been the primary goalkeeper there. And I saw the highlight from a distance. I was kind of walking past, and I was like, please tell me it wasn't him. And I checked. I was like, okay, it wasn't him. I was like, all right, great goal, because I didn't want to celebrate it. You know, you don't want to see a friend get scored on like that.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't him. So I was like, great goal. Goal of the year for sure.
It's funny how the tables turn. I remember last year, Ottawa had a goal just very similar to that against Richmond last year from DeSantos.
Yeah.
He scored that from long range. So it's weird that they had a goal of the year basically last year and have it be scored up against them and then give up 2 goals. It was within 2 minutes of that. It didn't look like it was their day, and FC Cincinnati was firing on all cylinders for that match.
I think Ottawa had 2 like that last year.
Yes, Sione got another one that wasn't quite as far out, but was still from like 30 yards or something. He just really got a hold of one. Which makes me think that
he scored one of those like that.
Yeah, Ottawa should like put that into their like marketing campaign. It's like Ottawa Fury, come watch some guy score from way too far away. Maybe.
I was gonna say they should put in their marketing campaign, like Ryan said, it wasn't Ottawa's day. That should be on the cover of the 2018 program. Like Ottawa Fury, today is not our day.
Right, Ottawa Fury, maybe next week. We don't know.
Ottawa plays good in the first half.
They do. It's true. They had a very good.
In the second half, they completely fall apart.
They had a very bad second half.
That happened today as well.
It's true.
Yeah. I say that, but this is what I kind of wanted to see from Cincinnati, though.
Yeah.
Because they've been an odd team throughout the year. I think they're reverting to the 2016 selves where they beat everyone they're supposed to beat and they can't beat the top teams. I think it's going to be the same thing this year. But it's nice to see them take care of business against who they need to take care of business with, especially coming off a couple non-wins.
Guys, I hate having to announce scores for these games. So I'm going to try this. The team that plays in USL in Toronto scored no goals. The team that plays in USL sometimes in Harrison, New Jersey, but most of the time in New York State also scored 0 goals for a 0-0 draw between Toronto FC 2 and New York Red Bulls 2. There we go. Okay. I didn't confuse myself, and that's all that matters. There was 5 people at this game.
Did the game really happen if nobody was there to see it?
I mean, more people watched it, Ryan, on the international YouTube stream.
I had that set up on my laptop to show the 5 matches that were going on at the same time of like the Atlanta Pittsburgh, the Charlotte Indy match, Charleston Tampa. I think this one, and then there was, I think you throw in Cincinnati as well. And once it got to, it was nearly that my laptop was going to freeze, and this was the first match that I sacrificed to get rid of to focus on the other 4. It was just New York Red Bulls, just like an odd team. They've had 3 consecutive draws recently, basically no results against the Canadian teams, and a 1-1 draw against Lostos. Yet this is all coming off the heels of getting a 5-0 result against Tampa at home. I feel like they should be performing better than what they actually are. They're just not performing to how they should be, and I don't know how they're still 3rd in the Eastern Conference at the moment.
Yeah.
Who was the kid they had a few years ago? Was it Anatol Abong? I think they need to bring him back.
Yeah, I don't know where he ended up. I thought I did, but I forgot. I think he's in Europe somewhere.
Weird, yeah.
He was solid.
That he was. But they're very, like Ryan said, they're super confusing.
Yeah.
Like to score goals like they did in a couple matches and then completely poo the bed in other ones against teams that, by all accounts, they probably should score against is a bit strange.
You know, and I think that rings true for Charleston and Tampa, because Charleston get a 1-0. I mean, Tampa on the road again, proving that they're not a good road team, really.
That's why they're the Rowdies, not the Roadies.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Larry talked to me how you know, I mean, do you see, I know it's a huge league. Do you see a whole lot of Tampa, or is this one of those things where you think the old guard teams have an advantage over other teams at home, or what is this?
I honestly, I wish I had more time to watch a lot of these games because most of these games I just don't have the time in the day to watch.
That's fair.
So I didn't get to see too much of these things.
Yeah, and apparently USL has decided to try to help you out by starting games at ridiculous times this week, but we'll get to that in a minute. Again, Tampa Bay, they won one game on the road earlier this year or drew one, and you were like, all right, they figured it out. And then this happens, and you're like, maybe not. Yeah, a weird one. I mean, really good win for Charleston. They'll be happy with that. But Tampa, again, it's early. We just talked about that. It's only May, but Tampa's got to figure that out if they want to take home that USL Cup. I know our friends at Unused Subs said they think their window is kind of closing for that. And this is a good year to go out and try to get a USL Cup.
I mean, from their 4 road matches they've done on the season, they've only had one win, and that was their 3-1 result against North Carolina FC in the first match of the season on the road. Since then, they've lost 1-0 to Louisville, 5-0 to New York, and 1-0 to Charleston. So that's giving up 7 goals in the past 3 road matches, where if you preface that with the most recent home matches they've had, it was 2-0 against Real Monarchs, 5-0 against Ottawa, and then 2-0 against Bethlehem Steel. So it's just like night and day between the two sides of how they can play at home and on the road.
Yeah. And they're a really experienced team. So to me, it's surprising they play so poorly on the road. You would almost expect a young team to struggle on the road, but they have like 5 guys in their mid-30s, and maybe the travel is not good on the old bones. I don't know.
Yeah, Tampa Bay at home, I think you could say is the best team in the league even.
Yep.
Tampa Bay on the road probably wouldn't make the playoffs if they played every game there. I think at this point you pencil them in for playoffs. They stay until they play on the road. When they play on the road, they go home. And that's what it's going to be. They have to hope for getting the 1 seed or having the better guys get upset early.
Although I do believe Tampa will have a chance to improve their home standing. Their next 2 matches this weekend and next weekend come against Penn FC and Richmond. And there's definitely a chance for a good result against Penn FC. Richmond may be a bit trickier since they do play well at home.
I mean, even if they can just go out of their way and get points in a few of those road matches, keep winning their home matches, they should be in good shape. They should at least qualify for the playoffs at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I think finishing worse than 4th is a surprise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Louisville 3, Steel 1. Cameron Lancaster continues to be, for my money, one of the best players in the league, with probably not enough fanfare about that, because on his day, he's phenomenal. And Ilya Illich scores in the 17th, kind of sandwich those goals. Honestly, good for Bethlehem to score a goal. Marcus Epps gets one in the 44th. They still need to finish more. I know it's really hard to play in Louisville, but the positive is you didn't give up a goal in the second half against, for 70 minutes almost, against a really good Louisville team. And maybe part of that is they're already up 3-0. They're going to kind of pack it in a little bit, but Steel play Richmond this weekend again for the last time this season, and I think they'd be really hard done to not get a win at home there. But that's just me. Louisville City is just incredible. They really are.
They're a hell of a team.
Yeah, Louisville's probably the best team in the league still. Bethlehem, I think it's a buy low team. They're far better than the record says right now. They've played a lot of hard games and got some bad breaks in those games too. So if they're not hanging around the playoffs at the end of the season, I think that's going to be disappointment for them. They're still that good. They're gonna surprise some casuals who go, "Why did I just lose to a one win team?"
Right. Yeah, Larry, is that a similar thing where you'd rather, and it's a little different because I guess because San Antonio's reputation at this point's a lot higher than Steel's. Would you rather play a lot of those harder teams in your conference and lose or get draws and at least be close than maybe face a lot of the not as good or like the lower table teams early in the season and then face a lot of the big names kind of back to back at the end?
I think at this point in this season, seeing some more of those stronger teams toward the end would probably behoove our team.
Okay.
we seem to be having a problem finding our identity on our attack right now. And obviously the Las Vegas game seemed like a step in the right direction, and it was also a step backwards. We looked like we weren't going to be as much of a counterattacking team this year, but the counterattack worked this week. We'll see what they decide to roll out this week against Fresno, and if we see more of that, and that's what Darren Powell decides to roll out with the team, he seems to be completely content with having those 1-0 wins or taking the draws and just getting the point, as long as it gets you to the playoffs at the end of the season. And I can't really blame him for that. As long as you make it, then you got a chance. Obviously, we want to make sure we're at least getting a point every time we play. But right now, we need some of those easy matchups to get it done, it seems, and figure out what we've got going on up front. The attack is just a mess at the moment.
And Vegas is actually, they've gone the route of playing a lot of the tougher teams in the beginning of the season as well. Obviously, San Antonio, we assume, is going to be pretty good. Real Monarchs, Sacramento, Swope Park. So they kind of got a lot of those tough teams out of the way early and came away pretty decent results. They had a Cold Storm own goal and got a win against Swope. So, it definitely, there's benefits to both. There's benefits to building your confidence, then playing them later on, and then there's also the trial by fire. If we can compete with them, we can compete with anyone.
Get it out of the way almost in a little bit too, I think.
Yeah.
You know? Speaking of getting a point every time you play, Kyle Grieg apparently believes in that philosophy as well, Larry. St. Louis steals a point here from Swope Park. I hope you didn't want to watch the. I hope, like, in a way that you did a lot of things from like the 5th minute to about the 85th minute, and then kind of watch the game in between those two time periods. Haji Berry scoring in the 3rd minute, Kyle Grieg scoring in the 88th. Man, I'm glad that St. Louis is in the East because they have a lot more travel, and I just think they're a really tough out.
I mean, we came to the same result when we played Swope Park 1-1.
Right.
They're a tough team. So is St. Louis. We played them. We beat St. Louis at the beginning of the season, but they're a hell of a team as well. So I'm confident taking the point. If I can get the point on the road, I'm good with that. And I would be with both of them too. Like we've been saying all night, it's early in the season. Getting a point on the road is better than not getting anything at all. Keep plugging away. You'll figure it out if you can.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, St. Louis is currently on a 5-match unbeaten run, and they've scored exactly 1 goal in each of their 7 matches this year.
Yeah.
I want to say St. Louis had a save off the line from a defender too in this game.
Sounds
I think
right.
this was the match. So they got in some sense lucky to get away with the point, especially against Swope Park, who's always that really dangerous, somehow middle of the table West team.
They know how to put on a show. That's for sure.
They do. Yeah, if nothing else. Orange County 1, Colorado Springs 0. Aiden Quinn converts a penalty in the 6th minute, and then back and forth from there, I suppose. Colorado Springs is just such a weird team to try to figure out. Is my early 2018 takeaway.
They still currently occupy a playoff spot, having played 9 matches with 10 points, and they're currently sitting 8th in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I could see them fixing it. They have 4-0-1 losses at this point after 9 games, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So if they could fix some small things, they could actually be a good team. But I'm not sure how they really do it at this point. Maybe I don't watch enough of them, but they looks like they still have the players to be a good team. They just need to figure out how to actually use them.
They seem to be. I was actually out there for the match when they played the Toros, and they have speed and they have good players, like you said. They just seem to be one cross away from a goal or one last pass away from a goal, which I know you can say that about a lot of teams in this league, but they definitely seem to have the talent. I would project them to trend upwards rather than downwards, as you go through the season.
Right. It might be. I think they lost Kasher in the offseason, who is a pretty good player for them. So maybe they're trying to figure out how to build the offense when he's not there.
Reno 2, Oklahoma City 0. Kevin Partita in the 64th, Lindo Mfeka in the 87th. Not doing his team any favors. Miguel Gonzalez gets a red card, straight red in the 37th, and Reno is able to finally capitalize on that. Maybe they'll feel like it should have been more goals, but you get 3 points and a clean sheet at home, and you're not going to complain a whole lot, I don't think.
Yeah, that's going to be a long-term red, I think, from watching that game. That was a elbow to the head, kind of swung in the direction of the head probably was. So Wheel of Discipline's going to come out again. I think he should get at least 3 games, but you never really know with the USL.
That's true.
And It was one of those, this is another Oklahoma City losing yet again. I think if they kept all 11 players, they might have got a draw to this because Reno still doesn't look good after their off-season loss of their 3 best players.
Yep.
But, I mean, power to Reno. They go up a man and manage to grind out a 2-0 win, even though it took them probably longer than they needed to. And Oklahoma City is still looking for answers.
Yeah, I mean, that was Oklahoma City's 6th consecutive loss in the league and haven't scored since they played Fresno and lost 2-1 on the road. In fact, their only one of the year was against Tulsa at the start, or 1-0 at home, and it's been downhill since then. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier over the next 2 matches, which will come against Swope Park Rangers and Phoenix Rising at home.
I mean, I'll never get sick of watching OKC lose games after they eliminated us out of the playoffs last year, but I mean, they had a lot of turnover in the season, coaching and players alike. So they're doing a lot of soul searching, trying to find an identity for that team to kickstart things. And they may end up being in the too little, too late when it's all said and done by the end of the season here.
Right. I could see him start turning around like game 25, but that probably will be way too late, except to spoil a few teams' chances, which is also always interesting to watch. One team does it every year, catches fire around like September, despite being well out of the playoffs, and ruins a few people.
Yeah.
Speaking of too little, not even. Next 2 games in the West had a little bit of cardiac finishes as well. Phoenix won, Fresno won in a game that I think if Fresno won this would be really interesting. They've been super hot recently. They'll get a point away against Phoenix, which I'm sure they're feeling all right about. Amadou Dia for Phoenix gets sent off in the 26th minute, which I think is another reason why, Phoenix getting the point here off of a Alessandro Rigi goal in the 90th is huge for them.
Yeah, Fresno is interesting. They actually are tied for the longest unbeaten streak in the league right now. I think they ran up to 7 games with this draw, but they're up a man for almost the entire game, and they can't come away with a win on the road. They in those 7 games, they only have 2 wins. It's a team who, again, like Colorado, where they seem to be just 1 or 2 pieces away, or even just lineup tweaks away from being a really, really good team. I mean, they've been proven they're hard to beat. They only lost 1 game all season, but you can't lose on the road against a good team, or can't draw on the road against a good team up a man, especially when you get the first goal of the game. At that point, you should either go for the second goal or bunker up a man. And Phoenix, this is a point earned for them in a game that I thought, especially after the Fresno goal, they were going to lose and throw more questions to how good Phoenix is. But it was a really good job for them to climb back in. And I think Phoenix is cementing themselves to the top 2 team in the West pretty quickly, especially with results like this.
Yeah, Larry Carson, what were the expectations that you guys had for Fresno coming into the season? And obviously, I mean, again, like if you guys had a quarter for every time I said, oh, it's still early. But, is this a team that you think is going to really make themselves a threat in the West this year?
I don't know. They looked good after, I think, the initial shock against Vegas, that first match. They realistically probably should have came away with a draw on that one, but they have Juan Pablo Cafa, who we know is a legitimate player in this league. So I think they could end up being pretty decent, maybe towards the middle of the playoff race. Phoenix is almost surprising to me. It's a good result to get a point being down a man most of the match, but I feel like the talent they have and the explosive offensive players, they have not really impressed me in the attack so far. If that you've had like Drogba played like 1 match maybe, but other than that, yeah, they've kind of disappointed me a little bit, despite obviously still being pretty decently high up the table.
Fresno scares me.
Okay.
Fresno scares me a little bit. They seem like one of those teams that if they're not in the playoffs, they could be the one that gets really hot right there at the end of the season and ruins some lives when it comes to playoff seeding. San Antonio has been the only team to hold them to 0 goals so far this season. And I will be perfectly content if we walk out of our game this weekend 0-0 again and just take the 1 point and move along there. They looked pretty decent when we played them in that last game. Our defense managed to hold the line, but their attack was pressing all the time in that game.
Yeah, I could see Fresno as the team who gets the 8th seed and knocks off the 1 seed in the first round pretty easily, because they're not going to be easy out.
No.
And then last game of last week, where is it? Sacramento and Tulsa, 1-1 draw. Again, goal in the second, Tulsa takes the lead, and then 89th minute, Luis Espino gets a goal and steals rescues, I guess, the point for Sacramento at home.
Yeah, Tulsa went up early, seemed content to kind of hold back, play on a few counters, and mostly just waste time for them for a long part of it.
Yep.
But Sacramento eventually managed to break them down late. It's one of those things. I think Tulsa is, again, better than the record says. They've kept it close against a lot of really good teams. Mm-hmm. And Sacramento probably is not as good as the record says. They've been lucky to get points a few times. They've gone down very early in multiple games. For that first 20, 30 minutes, they look like they're sleepwalking for a lot of it. And they're going to get burned one day by some team putting 2 or 3 up on them in the first half. But all in all, I mean, this is a tale of kind of 2 teams who are both, I guess, an underrated and overrated team. It'll be interesting to see them both moving on. I think Tulsa's going to scrap the way back up the table a bit. Sacramento's not going to be the 1 seed. I think I said yesterday in the pod, I'm happy if they're the 4 seed. Being from Sacramento, that's completely fine. It's one of those where I think both teams are Sacramento's just overperforming expectations for having a massive roster and coach turnover at the same time.
Yeah. And then USL. Okay. Jake, we're gonna have some words. Listen, I understand that there's a lot of games that get played in a USL season, and there's in fact more this year than there was last year. That being said, I don't think having Real Monarchs in Las Vegas or having RGV and Reno kick off at like 8 o'clock East, local time in the morning is really great. So, like, as much as you want to emulate the British start times in the morning, especially on weekdays, let's not do that, please. Thank you. That being said, the 3 out of the 4 matches that happened this morning, I will say, had a and again, for people that don't seem to get that I deadpan humor a lot, this isn't a serious statement, but sort of protesting these start times because we had 3 straight 0-0 draws with Real Monarchs in Las Vegas playing to a 0-0 draw, Ottawa and New York playing to a 0-0 draw, and RGV and Reno playing to a 0-0 draw. Guys, I guess any thoughts on these 3 matches in total? Obviously, there was some fun firework things in Ottawa and New York in terms of red cards, but not a whole lot here in terms of attractive soccer.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan. You're out of the country.
I mean, I was watching the Ottawa and New York match earlier today, and it seemed like Ottawa, again, like Tony said earlier, they're a first half team, and then the second half they just fell apart in the 66th minute. It was Chris Manella got into a very late tackle where he just like took a kick at one of the Red Bull players after the play was blown dead, and it just ensued into a shoving match where it actually got to hands in the face from Manella, and he was immediately sent off, and it just seemed like from there it unraveled for Ottawa, but they managed to somehow claw a point out of this match, and it was curious why New York, for being up for nearly 24 minutes left in the game, that they couldn't score. I mean, they were granted a few very good saves from the Ottawa keeper. It seems weird that just they had the advantage pretty much for the entire second half, and they just couldn't get anything out of it.
Yeah, this game is why I've been low on Red Bulls compared to basically everyone else I've talked to. They now have 3 draws against teams they probably should have got at least 7 points against, if not all 9. And I know they're up and down team, but you can't have 3 straight downs against 3 teams who are not great sides. I'm concerned about them in the long run. Maybe Ottawa's figuring it out a little bit, but it's Ottawa. They still have to play for an entire 90 minutes. If they're playing a 60-minute game, they'd probably be maybe even a mid-table team at this point.
No, listen, it's like I said yesterday, 45 minutes in Canada is 90 in the United States.
The conversion rate kills them every time.
Right. It's a killer. That's why you always take your vacations up there, because time moves faster.
Yeah, that Vegas match on Monday night. I mean, what a way to open a new beautiful stadium than on a Monday night with a 0-0 draw. But
right, yeah.
Definite red card early for Vegas. It was as clear cut of a denying a scoring chance as you could have. The most interesting moment for me was Sammy Ochoa. To me, was onside on the header. I don't know if anyone else saw that, but. Was he onside for sure?
I think he was. It was. I mean, there's no good camera angle for that, but
there never
looked
is.
Like he probably was.
Never is. No, never.
From the bad camera angle, yes, he was onside.
Yeah, I thought he was too, and that would have been a crazy late steal of 3 points for Vegas against Real Monarchs in their debut in Zions Bank Stadium. But instead, it was a 0-0 draw, and I mean, you play most of the match against arguably the best team in the West and come away with a point is pretty good, but that would have been a nice little steal there at the end.
Yeah, and again, Vegas, look at the stats. What you think happened did not happen.
No.
I mean, if you saw those numbers, or so you think it's like a 3-0 win for Monarchs, if not more. But
maybe there'll be like a long con that comes out. It's like David Copperfield was in charge of Vegas this whole time. And his whole thing is like, yeah, look at all these numbers. And then it's like, oh, they actually weren't there. And also I moved that Statue of Liberty that has the Golden Knights jersey on it.
And the team just disappears at the end of the season.
The team just disappears.
It never even existed.
You had the manager and technical director disappear, so maybe you're onto something.
Now they're Tigers. Next week they'll be they'll be Tigers.
Well,
that'll be terrifying.
Oh my god. Tigers instead of llamas? Maybe the llamas are tigers.
The llamas are actually 2 very small tigers in a suit. Well, no, but I mean, what's the USL is going to come out with a statement tomorrow in their disciplinary report, and they'll go, in light of recent events in Las Vegas, we have now just surrounded the field with tigers and like a moat. So if any fans want to get involved, they have to, basically risk their life to do so. Problem solved.
Las Vegas, how will happen?
Simple. Yeah. They're giving out luchador masks on Saturday. I'm pretty excited about that.
Damn. That'd be hot.
Vegas, it's kind of Vegas.
A little bit, yeah. Speaking of things that were hot, FC Cincinnati 3, Indy 11-2 in Indy, in what might be the most entertaining match of this week, maybe. Kenny Walker starts things off with a penalty kick in the 7th minute. The official felt bad, so Ayoze got his in the 30th minute, tied it up at I can't read. Jack Mack scores in the 24th minute. I love that Jack McInerney's in USL as a sidebar. He'll do well here. Ayoze gets a goal in the 30th. Jimmy McLaughlin ties it up right before half, and then your boy Corbin Bone in the 55th. And since he get the 3 points on the road here.
I just want to say that.
Wasn't Corbin Bone in High School Musical?
Yes, he was. That is correct.
He's a former Wilmington Hammerhead player as well.
That was after High School Musical.
I mean, I just want to say the PK that Iwosi scored off of, that was a very weak call in the box. He went down very easily in the box. I don't think it was a PK, and that the ref probably shouldn't have given out a PK, but nonetheless, Cincinnati walks away with 3 points here and currently sit in 2nd place of the Eastern Conference at the moment, only 2 points behind rivals Louisville.
They're going to have to get in that 1st place spot by not playing Louisville and hoping that Louisville messes up somewhere, right?
Well, they actually tend to do okay against Louisville. It's
That's
the other
fair.
good teams they tend to struggle against for some reason. But I don't know. This is an interesting game for last few for Cincinnati, where right when their offense is showing up, their defense is unshowing up. They're going away. I mean, they've given up multiple goals in back-to-back games here, or not well, ignoring the Ottawa game, which is basically a bye week as it is at this point, multiple goals in back-to-back games against good teams. And they've scored multiple goals in back-to-back games against good teams.
Mhm.
So if they need to figure out something, because if they are giving up 2 goals to Indy and Pittsburgh, they're going to get destroyed by teams like Tampa and Louisville because they're much better offenses. But at the same time, it's nice to see them scoring. If they could work out their defense, Cincinnati's going to really solidify themselves as one of the top teams. Right now, I've had them in between the elite teams and maybe if they get hot at the right time, they're definitely getting in that top group of 4, though. I mean, Cincinnati's, again, top 4 team. Now they seem to prove themselves against the best of the best, which they still haven't quite pulled off this season. They'll have a few more chances coming up here soon, and that might be how Cincinnati season breaks either way.
Fair enough.
That's the way the coney crumbles.
Something like that, yeah. Oh, that was too good. Guys, I think we did it. I think that was everything. Congratulations. Hey, Larry, where can people find you on the Twitters and things?
They can find us every Thursday night we record live on Periscope. We're on Twitter at Texas Soccer Radio. My screen name is at Larry Leathers 87. My partner in crime, Kyle Mankey, is at Kyle_Mankey. Once again, every Thursday night. So tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central, we will be recording another episode.
Right on. Always good work from you guys.
And he's not related to the Pokemon Mankey either. That is.
Ooh, very good.
You're not the first person to make that joke about him, and there's definitely been people that have called him by that before.
I'm actually a big fan. I have to say this while we have Larry live. I'm a big fan of their Periscope feed. Super crisp, super good stuff. So I know he said he gets drunk and wings it, but I'm a big fan.
I appreciate it, man. We've put a lot of work into trying to put out a good product this season.
You might get drunk and wing the actual words and stuff on the podcast, but it all sounds really great. So,
I mean, the other thing about me and Kyle is we've also known each other for the better part of 10 years now. So it's pretty easy at this point.
Fair,
but I appreciate the good words, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Carson, where can people find you and stuff?
They can find me pretty much everywhere. At Carson A. Merck on Twitter.
Wait, no, hold on. I thought you were just going to be at the supermarket. Sometimes I go to Kohl's.
Yeah, you can find me next to the llama enclosure.
Yeah.
Match, but no, there's a lot of USL in my life, which I think is a good thing and also a bad thing. But I'm at Carson A. Merck at Switch Play Sock. I cover the Lights and the Toros. So if you're interested in either team, feel free to follow me. I enjoy Twitter banter as well.
Solid. Hey, Pony, where can people find you on Twitter, and where can Cincinnati fans get more mad about us, but only tell you about it?
He's been kind of positive about Cincinnati today.
I know. I've been at least neutral, trending positive. Last year I was not as much, but for a good reason. See, now here comes the negativity again. We're right back where we started. But Twitter, as always, at Iron Pony Chef. Like Ryan, I also do work for at Blurbs and Donald Say Soccer, so catch our more stat-based writing over there for those who like numbers.
Ryan, where can people find you, and what airport will you be landing at? Well, yeah, when you return to the States eventually.
You can follow me on Twitter at ILM_Ryan, typically just doing Scottish football matches, but I will soon be returning to the States, flying into your neck of the woods, Evan, Philadelphia, before landing back in Raleigh.
Shit. So it didn't work with the Twitter joke, because Philadelphia's airport sign is PHL, because it makes sense. Damn. All right. Well, that happens. If for whatever reason you wanted to hear more of me, well, you can't hear more of me, but if you wanted to interact with me more or get more of my opinions, at Villela, it's V as in Victor, ILLELLABSFC on the Twitters, or at Brotherly Game for the righty things and the match day tweets. This show you can find, the USLshow.com is a really easy spot. You can check out our Patreon. You can check out our friends at Soccer Loco. Hey DK, how's it going? And then where else? On Twitter at the USL Show. If you have questions or want to tell us how much you don't like us for only referring to Cincy as Attendance FC yesterday, feel free. We'll take any kind of thoughts or criticisms or anything like that. But yeah, and then real quick, just to plug our show yesterday, we had Brady Ballou on, who was a former Tulsa Roughneck midfielder, and he sat down and graciously told us that we weren't too far off in terms of the power rankings, which was, I think, just him flattering us more than anything.
He was really good.
He was incredible, right?
Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, so were we.
Players can transition that quickly, and he was good. A lot of good insight from a player's perspective of somebody barely removed from the game. So
for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a guy that's played a lot of these teams recently. So, and a really big semi-pro fan. So if you like that movie, check out that episode because he makes a ton of references. So, guys, for Carson, Larry, Pony, and Ryan, this has been Evan Malala, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Take care. All right, thanks.